All right, thank you so much, Kang, for having me. Very happy to be here. The first Android meetup that I participated is August 2015. So at that time I introduced Aptoid, and now I want to introduce AppCoins, which is a project backed by Aptoid. So I'm not very technical, so my slides are more about the business drivers behind this project. But if later you have some technical questions and I'm not able to answer them, then I'll just ask my developers for help and then email you the answers. All right, so just before I speak about AppCoins, I want to speak about Aptoid very briefly because I want to explain why our company that has been around since 2011 decided to do this AppCoins project. So who we are? We are the second largest Android App Store, of course, after Google Play. The numbers that you see here on the slide, the green number is the number since 2011 when we created the company, so 5 billion downloads in our platform. The blue number, that's a recent number from December, so we had 30 million monthly active users in December, organic users, we don't spend money in advertisement. And then the red number is the number of apps and games that we have in our platform. This number compares with 3.3 million apps and games in Google Play. When sometimes people ask me, oh, you're missing out more than 2 million apps, I explain that this 1 million apps, it's not curated by my company. It's our users deciding which apps and games they upload to our platform. So what I usually reply is that this is the 1 million apps that my user base thought was relevant to share. So maybe there's 2 million apps in Google Play that are not very relevant. That's how we see it. We work with the developers, so some of the developers actually, once they see the numbers they're getting from Aptoid, they become a certified developer. So they upload their apps to Google Play, and then they also upload the apps to Aptoid. And yeah, we have a relationship with all these guys. And then another very relevant part of our business is, besides the B2C brand, the one I'm wearing, right, the Aptoid, we're working with smartphone manufacturers to preload our content in their phones. So what I'm sharing here is what happened to our user base once we got Xiaomi, Vivo, and Oppo on board. So around summer last year, the B2B numbers were about 2 million users from a total of 20 million users. And then in the last 6 months, we have 12 million coming from these partnerships. So they're already 1/3 of my total 30 million user base. And the reason these partnerships are so important is because if you buy one of these phones, the App Store is already preloaded on the device. So you just click on the App Store and start using. If you go through my website, right, my B2C brand, and you try to install Aptoid on your phone, you get this very scary message from Android saying, this is not coming from Google Play, this can contain malware or virus. And we lose a lot of new users because of this problem. So these partnerships are very important for our company. And that's it, okay? About Aptoid. So before I introduce the AppCoins project, what drove us to do this is because there's the iOS ecosystem, which is a proprietary ecosystem, and they block all access to the other app stores. In the case of Android, you can install Aptoid, like I explained, if you are bold enough to click unknown sources on your phone. Having said that, these are the statistics outside China for Android. 82% of the downloads are coming from Google Play. Then you can see Aptoid is just a small part of this pie chart. And then there's another players like Amazon App Store and Baidu and Samsung. So the reason that drove us to what I'm going to introduce to you today is that we felt if we continue just by ourselves trying to fight this monopoly, it's almost close to impossible. So what I'm going to introduce to you today is something that we decided to do using blockchain, is to create a protocol that we are hoping becomes the standard for this piece of the pie chart. And if we, all these alternative app stores, if we use the same protocol, we might have a chance to disrupt the monopoly of Google Play. That's our vision. So, okay, so first about the protocol. What we're trying to do with this protocol is try to improve three major things in the App Store business. And the reason we decide these three things because, as I mentioned, we've been doing this since 2011 for 7 years, and we felt by using blockchain we could improve these three aspects of the App Store. So, number one is try to get a more efficient and cheaper way for developers to acquire new users. Then try also to create a more efficient way of users spending money inside the games. And then finally, try to tackle something that hurts Android reputation, which is the safety of the ecosystem. So for each one of these, I have some slides just to explain what we're trying to do. So number one, in terms of user acquisition, I'm not sure how many of you know about this, but if you are app developer or game developer and you want to acquire users today, usually you use something called CPI, cost per install. And when you do that, you actually have to work with all these intermediaries that you have to spend a lot of money with all these guys. And this one problem is a costly way to acquire users. And the second problem is transparency. So I give you an example that happens to Aptoide every month. Somebody will see, let's say, a Grab advertisement in Instagram. They click on the Grab ad, they're sent to Google Play, but then they go to Google Play, they don't have a Google Play account. So they go inside Aptoide, search for Grab, and install Grab. We don't get paid anything for that install. Instagram gets paid because it was the first place where they saw the Grab ad. So what happens sometimes is when Grab sees these installs, sometimes it's very difficult even with tracking links to understand where this user came from, which channel works better. So what we're proposing with the blockchain and using smart contracts is basically a one-to-one relationship between the developer and the user. And the way we are proposing it is in our white paper, we call this cost per attention. That means the user has to install Grab, has to use Grab for 2 minutes or a game for 2 minutes. And once he spends 2 minutes inside that app or game, the developer rewards the user with some coins. These coins cannot be cashed out, okay? So these coins that the user earns, he has to spend again in the App Store. And then 85% of those coins go to the user, and then 15% stays with the store, which can be Aptoide or any other app store, because as I mentioned, it's an open protocol, and 5% to the device manufacturer. So the examples I gave of Xiaomi, Vivo, and Oppo, we're proposing that all App Store transactions, 5% goes to them. So that's about the user acquisition, that advertisement piece. Then for the billing part, something similar in terms of concept. This is today, if you are a developer, you know, right? So every money that the user spends inside the App Store, 70% goes to the developer. Google and Apple take a 30% cut. What we are proposing is the same model. So if a user spends some app coins in your game or app, 85% goes to the developer, and then 10% to the store, to the channel that this user is using, and 5% to the device manufacturer where this user is doing this. So with 1 and 2, we're also trying to tackle something that today is a big advantage for Aptoide. So I gave you the example of the Instagram, the user seeing the ad for Grab on Instagram and then going to Google Play and not having a Google Play account. I never realized how this was such a big driver until I moved here and started traveling to Indonesia, India, Myanmar. A lot of people are buying a smartphone for the first time. They never had a computer. The smartphone is their first digital device. And sometimes they go to Google Play, and the first thing Google Play asks is, what's your Gmail address? And these people don't even have an email address. And that's how we get a lot of users. People who go online and search how to install Candy Crush without Google Play, and then they find us. So what Aptoide does today, we don't require any type of account, we don't ask your name, anything. What we track is the CPU ID of the device, and our vision for AppCoins is to try and do the same thing for these users. So if I'm someone that just bought a phone in Indonesia, I'll go inside Aptoide and see that these 3 games are rewarding for spending 2 minutes inside the game. I install the game, I play the game 2 minutes, I earn some coins, and then I spend it inside the App Store. So we're trying to address, that's why the title 2 billion users, because the statistics say there's 5 billion smartphone users out there, but 2 billion are not making any in-app purchase because they don't have a bank account or credit card. The final piece, the security part. So what I have here in this slide, on the left is how today our company, Aptoide, keeps it safe from virus and malware. So any APK file that is submitted to our platform, it goes to a temporary pool to be checked automatically. Then we use 6 antivirus tools to check if we find any virus in the APK. Then we compare the signature of the developer with one from Google Play to see if anybody tampered with it. And finally, because we've been doing this for 7 years, we have our own malware database. Only after these steps, then the app gets the trusted badge and is allowed in my platform. The problem with this system is that if a developer fails to upload a bad game to Aptoide, then he can go and try in Amazon AppStore and Baidu and Alibaba, and there's no way for them to check the reputation of this developer. What we're trying to do is to make this information, the reputation of the developer, available in the blockchain such that anybody can check it. And on top of this, today, Aptoide user can already flag an app with virus or malware, and then my QA team goes and checks it, but I don't reward the user in any way. What we're planning with AppCoins is, from now on, every time a user wants to flag an app with virus, he has to spend some coins, and then if we confirm that this user was right, we reward him with some coins. Just trying to improve the general security of the App Store. Okay, so I've talked about the protocol. I hope you understand what we're trying to do. So just now, very briefly about the project. So the first thing I want to share with you is that we started thinking about this blockchain project, AppCoins, and also raising some money through an ICO last summer. And since that moment, we got more than 20 people starting to work in the project. So this is really the focus of the company now. So I just put this slide here to explain that we didn't outsource the main tasks of the project. So the technical white paper that is on our website, it was written by my CEO and one of the technical guys from my team. The business paper, the use case, was 3 people from our team. Me and 2 other colleagues, we were in charge of all the investor relations for each part of the world. We led the community and management and PR about the project ourselves, but of course with outside help. We had new servers, new website, everything we had to create, so we had to have people dedicated for this. And in November, when we did the first announcement that we're going to do this, we already had a MVP version. So we actually did the first AppStore transaction based on Ethereum, and it's in the blockchain. But from what we know, it was the first one done by an App Store. In terms of advisors, I think we got a good mix to our project. So in one hand, because we're fairly new to the blockchain, we only started thinking about this project last summer, as I mentioned to you. So we got 3 advisors from successful blockchain projects from Singapore. And then at the same time, we got key people from different sectors. So we have someone that was actually one of the first employees of Google Play. This guy has a very big reputation in the blockchain world. Andres, he actually helped us check audit our smart contracts. And of course, one of our investors in Aptoide also was an advisor, and is an advisor to the project. Here we try to summarize what we're trying to do, and I'm very happy that today I have a developers audience, because maybe you can also give me feedback about this. But basically, in terms of Google, Aptoide, and other independent app stores, all of them we can download and search for apps and so on. Everybody offers billing, so no difference in the first two rows. The earning coins, the reward that I mentioned to you, Google Play has something, but a limited. Aptoide today, we don't do that. Other independent app stores like Amazon, there's Amazon coins, so they do something there. And of course, app coins, we do it, as I explained. Peer-to-peer is something that I didn't mention in before, but basically, once we have the protocol implemented, if Kang wants some coins and he doesn't have enough coins, I can just do a peer-to-peer transfer to him for him to spend in the game. The peer-to-peer is also important because I mentioned to you about the people that get a smartphone for the first time, the 2 billion people that today do not participate in the app economy. So if I'm one of those persons in India and I don't know how to top up app coins, I can ask my cousin Kang, who is more techy, can you please buy some app coins, I give you some cash, and then he transfers peer-to-peer to me. So again, we're trying to address those people that today do not participate in the app economy. This decentralized app approval is what I mentioned to you, right? Any user from the AppCoins platform can actually flag an app by saying it's good or bad. So it's not going to be a centralized system, but the users will be the ones contributing to the reputation of the developer. The revenue share, so I mentioned that the standard from Google and Apple is 70%. Aptoide was proposing 75% because we still had the credit card and payment processors, so we could not go above these. What we're proposing with AppCoins is 85%, because that's a good thing about the blockchain, there's no intermediaries. The store of course, traditional methods in the bank. Our project is based on the blockchain, and then the users, of course, it's just an estimate of how big the project can become if more people adopt the protocol. So I'm almost getting to the end. I just wanted to give a quick update on our roadmap. So, as I mentioned to you, only last summer we thought about doing AppCoins. Q3 was about preparing our ICO, so we wanted to raise money to fund the project. We did our pre-sale in November, we're already with the MVP, as I mentioned to you. December we finished our main sale, and now we are in the first quarter, and our commitment is to drive, to deliver this roadmap that we promised to the community. And the 2 next updates that we have is 26th of February, we want the AppStore Foundation website live, because if we are hoping that other app stores join us in this effort, these app stores cannot speak to me, right? Because they will see me as a competitor. We want them to speak with an independent entity, which is the AppStore Foundation. So the website will be ready by the end of February. And for the first year for Aptoide in Mobile World Congress, which is the biggest event of technology in Europe, it's like the CES Las Vegas, but for Europe in Barcelona, with more than 100,000 attendees. Our stand does not even mention Aptoide, as you can see. It's all now about AppCoins and pushing this protocol. In terms of the code, we're hoping that by 21 of March, we'll have already a developer SDK, such that any developer interested in trying this can accept payments with AppCoins, and at the same time, the wallet for the user to make the payments. So we're focusing first on the payment side and not the user acquisition, because we think this is the most important piece, but of course then the user acquisition part will follow. So yeah, that's our roadmap. Almost over. I just wanted to tell you that everything that we started to do since November, when we had that MVP, is already in GitHub. Right now is in Aptoide GitHub because we are still driving, but the goal is, as soon as we are happy with the reference code, is to transfer this code to the AppStore Foundation GitHub, but anyone can go now and check the code that we already have there. And then this is my final slide, okay? So I'm just trying to summarize here what's the vision for AppCoins, okay? So AppCoins is not Aptoid, okay? And that's why we have this slide. AppCoins is a new concept that we're hoping that all these third-party app stores adopt. So this means if we get more app stores like Aptoid adopting the protocol, when I go to speak with a developer like Brad, I don't talk about Aptoid user base, right? We'll talk about the total user base using this code, and that's our vision, because we feel if we can really get this community, these other app stores working together and adopting our protocol, we really stand a chance to disrupt Google Play margins, right? Because one thing we know from working with those 12,000 developers, 30% is a very big cut for something that you work so hard in your game or app. So we really have the vision of disrupting that. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much, and would love to have some questions.